G'day guys, and welcome back to another video on the YouTube channel, and in today's video we will be ranking AFL rivalries. So let's just get straight into the video. So the TSR Ultimate brings in a crowd strong, okay, and not really. So let's just get straight into the video. Let's start off with the showdown. Adelaide vs Port Adelaide. How much has it done in the last 10 years? It's made a big impact to the world of sport. Of course, Adelaide vs Port Adelaide. We saw that Jordan Dawson after the siren, like in 2023, I think. Well, there's been lots of big things happening between these two teams. Like, it's 50-50. You never know who's going to win in an Adelaide derby. It's a really entertaining one as well to watch. So I have to say it brings in a crowd. It really does as well. It brings in a big crowd. I feel like a sold Adelaide Oval, you would think. But you're not really sure, really. But, yeah, I'm going to say it is. Brings in a crowd. So let's get into the next one. Essendon vs Collingwood. So this rivalry has kind of been here since 1995, I feel. It usually brings in a very big crowd. You would know that it would usually bring like 90,000 crowd into the MCG. You feel like it's Anzac Day clash. Of course, it's one of the biggest rivalries since 1995, the Anzac Day clash. The highest fans it's drawn as well has been 94,825 fans. So that would be big. And yeah, you would remember if you were the 2009 match, when Essendon won in the final minute when David Zagarakis kicked that winning goal. Yeah, so there's been very, very big moments within this rivalry, so I have to say it's got to be better, got more history than the showdown, unfortunately. So I'm going to put that in brings in a crowd. It's going to be higher than the showdown. So now let's go on to one of the biggest rivalries in the AFL. It is Carlton vs Collingwood, the main rivalry. Two clubs that has had a very, very big rivalry. One of the oldest teams playing it out. It's never dying, this rivalry, is it? Like Collingwood and Carlton, it's one of the biggest rivalries you would see in the world of sport. We remember that Nick Dacos winner, Carlton. We know how they knocked Carlton out of finals in 2022. There's been so many problems, and you usually have a full MCG. It's like a grand final for these two teams, so it's one of the biggest rivalries in the world of sport for them. So I've got to put in ultimate. It's got to be the best rivalry out of all of these rivalries. Honestly, it has to be the best of the best, and yeah, I don't think anything can really beat that. I don't really think anything can really beat that. So let's move on. Essendon and Carlton. This is interesting. This is very, very interesting. A rivalry, I don't mind. I would watch it. It's alright. I feel like it will bring in like 80,000, not a full MCG with 90,000, but it will bring in a decent crowd. So I feel like it's not better than the showdown though. Showdown is more better, but it's more of the oldest teams going at it as well, like similar to Carlton vs Collingwood, but less of a rivalry. So I'm going to put it in, bottom up brings in a crowd or strong. I'm going to put it in strong. For now. I feel like it's a decent rivalry. You wouldn't say it's the best, but yeah. Now let's move on to Richmond vs Carlton. A rivalry with probably the largest supporter bases as well. They've had several grand finals with each other back in the day. Of course, these two clubs have had lots of history in the 19,000s if you go back then. It's been a great rivalry, and in the modern day now, as we have it, they play in the first game of the footy season of round one to kick it off, and it's been like that since 2010 probably. I'm not sure, but it's been bloody good, but it's kind of dead now, so I'm going to put it in strong. I'll put it lower than Essendon and Carlton. I'll put it lower than that, because it's not one of the biggest rivalries, you would say. But anyway, let's move on to Easter Monday rivalry, Hawthorn vs Geelong. It is a rivalry between the two clubs that is known for close matches. Honestly, there's been it's the greatest modern day rivalry. I have to say it's one of the greatest modern day rivalries, the Easter Monday clash between these two teams at the MCG. It's been one of those games that's just unreal. It's an unreal rivalry as well. I feel like it's got to be higher. It's got to be and brings in a crowd. Unfortunately, it has to be lower than the Showdown, but it's a beautiful rivalry. I have to give you that. Like, it has to be one of the biggest rivalries of the modern day history. Now let's move on to the Derby, the West Coast Derby. And the WA Derby, not a bad rivalry. I have to say it has to be one of the most developed rivalries across the years. Of course, it's gotten a bit boring now because Fremantle always win it and West Coast always lose. That's the thing. If West Coast start winning, maybe it will become a better rivalry. But we've seen 100-point smashings from the Fremantle Dockers of late, and that's just made the rivalry so boring. But if we see the intake it takes, I've got to put it at the top of strong. I'm a bit harsh with this one, but I feel like it has to be there. It just has to be there, unfortunately. For me, I don't think it's the best, but we'll see. Now let's move on to Giants versus Bulldogs. It is a rivalry that has emerged in recent years. I mean, it's been recently. Of course, when Tom Boyd was there, that trade deal with Griffin and Boyd, that created a massive rivalry in this. And the 2016 Premier final, in which the Bulldogs made their first grand final appearance in 55 years. That was such a big game, and well, how historic was that game? And it turned into a massive rivalry. It wasn't massive, but it's got lots of history behind it. So I've got to put it probably above there. It's actually a strong rivalry if you actually think about it. Now Giants versus Sydney. Sydney and Giants. Is it called a showdown? It's kind of called a showdown. Yeah, I guess. It's not a bad one. I'll have to tell you that. It's been very close in recent times, as you know. Those 1-point clutch wins, and we saw in the 2024 final series a very, very close game between these two sides. So I'll have to say, it definitely will bring in a crowd. I mean, it's probably better than the Easter Monday clash. It's one of my favourite rivalries to watch. Yeah, you would put it on the telly, and yeah, it's such a great rivalry. Now let's move on to Sydney versus Hawthorn. These two have been a rivalry for a couple of years now. Not like back in the 2000s, like early 2000s, when it was 2012, 2013, 14, and 15, because these two always faced each other in grand finals. I think it was like 3 times over 4 years. It was such a great moment, and it was a great era back in the day for Hawthorn history. So when you think about it, it's one of the best rivalries you would ever see. So I have to put it in. Well, now it's dead, but I have to put it in strong with the history it had. I'll put it above the Derby, though. I'll put it below it, sorry. Yeah. Now, Hawthorn versus Essendon. This is an interesting rivalry. It's two clubs that it's alright rivalry. I have to be honest. It would bring in a crowd like 70,000. But is that enough? Yes, I think so. I feel like I don't really know much history about this rivalry, even though I'm a Hawthorn supporter. They face each other mainly in the first round. I have to put it below the Sydney and Hawthorn. No, I'll put the Sydney and Hawthorn one below that. Now, Q Clash. I'm putting it in okay. I'm definitely putting it in okay. It is not a good rivalry. It's a boring one, is it? No, it's kind of irrelevant in my opinion. It's one of the most irrelevant rivalries in AFL history. But yeah, Brisbane and Collingwood, put it in strong. I'll put it like probably the bottom of strong actually. I don't know much history of it. Collingwood and Richmond, I'll put it there. It's a good rivalry. First round matches, it brings like 80k. Now West Coast versus Collingwood, no. So I have to put one rivalry at the bottom, unfortunately, and I have to put West Coast and Collingwood in not really, because it was basically the 2018 grand final and hasn't got much history behind it. But thank you guys for watching this video. It was such a great pleasure for you guys to watch this video, and there's more content coming out very, very soon for you guys, and you do not want to miss a bit of it. So subscribe, hit that notification bell,